Okay, so we have a little opportunity here to check in, share anything that's coming up, if there's any challenges or questions coming up. So I have a few things I'd like to mention as well, some emails that have come in the last while pertaining to facilitating and the practice as well. These are some good questions. So but I'd love to hear if there's anything fresh coming up or insights, experiences, anything happening in the past. So as always, you can just do a raise hand or just unmute yourself if there's anything. That's, that's awesome. Means the mind is quiet. That's beautiful. Yeah. Awesome.
Where's the raise hand? I can't find it.
Oh,
I
you're
forget where it's at.
That's okay. You're unmuted. I don't. It's weird with Zoom. Like the raise hand seems to move around, and sometimes it's under more. Mine's in the front of my screen right now, so it's I don't know. It's like you have to find the feature sometimes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, Dan, I had two things. One was a facilitator question, which we can ask now or later, and um, then just like a reporting.
Yeah.
Do you care which one I do
Yeah.
first?
No. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Either one or both. Hmm.
Okay, so the facilitator question that I had is when there's an opportunity for the facilitator to help with either technique or kind of guide it along, um, when the part where we unmute and then we enter into that space, into that dyad space, that part right there,
Hmm.
I was wondering if I could hear from you and maybe some of the other facilitators how you navigate that entry. Um, I keep getting like just a little voice, and it's something maybe I just need to work through. But I keep getting um, I'm interrupting, like I'm interrupting the dyad. So I will kind of hang out and linger just a little bit longer, and then it's like, okay, this needs assistance, but I'm kind of battling with this like interruption idea.
Yeah.
So I thought if I could hear what it actually sounds like
Hmm.
from a dyad perspective, when a facilitator unmutes and they come in to help, and this isn't the like tell me who you are, that kind of thing. This is like, okay, it's necessary for you to come in and kind of help them with the technique. What that sounds like.
Hmm. Yeah, so I'll share my experience or my how I kind of do it,
Okay.
and maybe just connect it a little bit to some things that Charles Berner says as well. And then if anyone else has input as well, it'd be great because I think part of it is we all sort of find our own comfort level and our own style as well
Mhm.
for doing it. So I would say, like if people are they're really at that point where where your pointing is going to result in a an awakening, like if the possibility of the response is I am, then usually for me there's no I'll just say who's aware of that, like it just sort of comes out, so it's just a very direct question. There's no sort of just sort of gently interrupting. It's just like right there. But other times, like if it's more at the beginning of the dyads where people are just getting used to it and they're unsure, they're learning the technique and that. Sometimes I might say, excuse me, the witness, can the witness, just become aware of body language right now, or the witness should not react, so just like a very gentle, excuse me,
Excuse me. Okay.
yeah, yeah, or just, sometimes I make it, it's just whatever comes out. But also it's I try and have a gentle voice as well. So one of the things, Charles Burner in the physical dyads, he always says it's important, for the facilitator just to not come across as an authoritarian, So
Mhm.
so part of it, in the physical dyads, that he even specifies that when you approach people in a dyad, you're not higher than them. You're actually lower or on the same level, and so we can sort of extrapolate from that as well into these dyads. So we're just sort of there to support so just, yeah, being polite, just whatever's not going to trigger people, generally is, what I go with. Um, so that's kind of how I navigate it. Just a little excuse me, or
Okay.
yeah. And once you've done that once, like if somebody knows that the facilitator is there and that they might say something, then they're sort of acclimatized to it then. So you don't need to do that every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody else have any little tricks or tips on that? Yeah, it's interesting, with the prompting, like the prompting, I've gone through the full range where there was a hesitancy to prompt, and then there was an over exuberance to prompt as well. And it really is just seeing within the self structure where the resistance is, or maybe where the over exuberance is, and just finding that, you know, middle way of just allowing it to come through. And yeah, and I find like the more clear I am, the more it just comes through. So eventually, there's no thinking about it.
Yeah.
It just comes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Mhm.
helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
that's what
you.
I was doing, and but I just felt like I wanted to hear it from what the other facilitators are doing.
Mhm.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And was there another question as well, or?
I was just going to report like the dyad experience.
Mhm.
There's uh, a lot of sense of the idea itself, and associated sensation that the I belief. Well, it seems like there's two things. There's monodialogue, there's this dialogue that, oh, I'm here and I don't want to go anywhere. It'll have its story. So there's a story attached to it. And then you go into that story and you can just see um, like within that structure is the sensory information coming in from the body, what the body, or whatever channel it's coming in from, whether it's sensation or if it's hearing. Um, it, it wants to confirm. The idea wants to use that data to confirm itself.
Mhm.
And I was just watching that whole structure today. And as I was, because that's just what showed up. And it, so I'm just reporting that. That's all. I don't really have a question around it
Mhm.
other than I found it to be um, a very intimate and powerful seeing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like you're sort of directly experiencing the mechanism itself of,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I think as we go deeper into these layers, like the way attention works, the way it functions, and this whole sensory apparatus, all of it, it just becomes visible. And yeah, and to me, it's mysterious. The more, like the mind, you know, wants to know, of course, like how this all works. But
Hmm.
but the paradox is the more we see it, the more incredible it is, and it's just like we have really no idea what it is. But yet, the more we see it, it's not running unconsciously. So then there's a greater sense of freedom in that, just seeing a playfulness,
Hmm.
to me, the not knowing of how that works is the liberation. The not knowing mind is, you know, it's unburdened by the need to figure it out or to know anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, Joy. Yeah. Uh, Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Hi.
Um, yeah, I have a question. I'm also just loving being in diets again.
Mm.
Um, so I feel like my self structure has a lot to clear, for example, and I'm wondering how that works with trying to facilitate. Are you also doing your own work, like diets
Mhm.
before, or I'm curious how that works. Like,
Yeah. Well, like I can speak in my own experience. Like everyone who, comes to a facilitator role, the self-structure exists. So yeah, like for example, the last I am retreat, um, that I did, there was, an incredible clearing happening within my own character, my own self structure. Like there were points where, a sense of resistance was coming up. So, um, for me, the facilitating is an incredible opportunity for doing our own clearing as well, and just seeing, especially when it comes to the prompting, we start to see, like Jory was just saying, the hesitancy to, or feeling where there's a restriction or a contraction within the self structure. So, I would say like the facilitator playing that role is probably the fastest accelerator for our own work. So they're very intimately tied together for sure. Yeah.
I feel like there's such a power in voicing it though.
Hmm.
And then, like, if you're silent as a facilitator, like, where does that voice get expelled or shared?
So can you, what do you mean exactly by that?
Well,
Like,
I feel like when I share
mhm,
with my voice, that clears.
mhm,
Versus if I'm in my mind, it might be more like I'm analyzing what's happening, which I
mhm.
could see would be helpful. But I'm wondering, is there room for sharing when you're a facilitator?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, like obviously the facilitator role is different, so we're the clearing I think that happens is more internal. It's more like being the witness. There can be an incredible clearing and processing happening for the witness as well. But yeah, obviously, or but there can be, I mean, it depends what role you're playing as the facilitator. Like for me, sometimes, just doing a talk like this, there are things that are coming up, so in a way, like right now, as we're speaking, there's a sense of, you know, it's just stuff coming through. Like, the channel is either clear or it's contracted or whatever. So just being honest with whatever's coming up in the moment, just even in a talk like this, like if you're facilitating a group, sometimes, it's just a natural clearing process, saying what's coming up in the moment, what's happening right now. So so it can be. I mean, I think I think being authentic as a facilitator is just being, brutally honest about what's happening, and yeah. So putting yourself in that role, it's just, it's my feeling is like, as a facilitator, you're always kind of telling people who you are.
Can
You're,
I say something, Dan?
yeah.
I feel like when you say facilitators, you take on the role
Mm-hmm.
and you are now in your mind. And the question when you say, who am I, or what are you? You're giving the imperative, whether it's to other people. The person in that vicinity or whoever that's witnessing is also, the question is going to this infinite space. It's hard in this awareness, in this space. It's in you, it's in the other person. There's no different whether the other, whoever that's answering the question. So I feel like sometimes the when you take on, you say facilitator, this, then you are lost into the, role again, the mind. And that's what everyone here, we're all working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's beautifully said. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there, really the clearing, that just being here, being, a clear sort of channel it's inseparable from that role. Like the role, the facilitator is just a concept, but to me, the true facilitator is it's beingness itself. It's when awareness is just here, then, the energy is free. There's an empty just beingness that, it's the mysterious thing that allows for everything to unfold. There's no resistance there. So if we're playing, if the sense of I is wrapped up in that, thought about being a facilitator, like I have to do this, I have to do that, then yeah, the mind is mediating. So it is a paradox. Yeah, I think, the more the mind has dropped off, the more the self, or the big self, or the being, is sort of directing what's happening. And, whatever words are coming out, it's not being mediated by that little thinker.
Yeah, I just love to make a comment about exactly what you're saying, Dan, after having been at an IAM retreat right there at the Samadhi Center, where you were actually walking around the room and facilitating. That as you approached a dyad, the openness of that entity, apparent entity, walking close to the two people working, just that clarity that's there. It doesn't need to be called a facilitator. It doesn't need anything. It's just that clarity that comes into that zone and creates. Yeah, I mean, some people call it transmission. I don't know what it is, and I don't even care. All I know is it's felt. It's felt. So that's how. I just think illuminating the idea that you're just speaking about and saying that is what this is, that trying to be a facilitator is about,
Mm-hmm.
for me
Yeah.
anyway, and having experienced that. So the
Thank
depth
you.
of clarity is what's the most important thing. End all. No names, no time, no place, no position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole idea of facilitator training is kind of ridiculous because, like really this whole thing is about, you know, unknowing. It's about just being, and we're somehow, guiding people through this crazy process where eventually, the process itself, just by being present, just by observing the mind, not reacting, it's like we gradually recognize the being that's already here. And it's to train somebody to do that, the more you tell someone something to do, the further they are from it. So the whole idea of facilitator training, like, yes, there are concrete things with the technique. The technique is its own sort of little world that it works. It's a structure that works. It's putting these conditions in place. But the actual believing in our role in this, we if we believe, if the little self is saying, if it has an interest in being a facilitator, the mind is like, yes, I'm a facilitator. I want to do this. I want to awaken people, and all of that. Then, there's someone mediating that. There's this character that, and this is the delusion of the mind. It's like the mind will create facsimiles. It'll become, a knowing mind. And, like for myself, like the farther I go into working in these dyads, truly the less I know, really, like I feel, you know, more and more like I really know nothing, honestly, like not just saying those words, but there's really an unknowing, the deeper I go into it. So, that to me it's, when that mind is really a not knowing mind, it is freedom. Nick, hi Nick.
So my question's a bit of a two-parter. Uh, you kind of already answered it in the previous talk, but the question was, what is clearing? And the follow-up to that is, uh, when during the my part of the share of the dyad, uh, there's a lot of thoughts and things that I want to say that are just like straight up rude and inappropriate and like socially unacceptable. It's not, yeah, just not good for human to human interaction. So is that stuff that needs to be cleared? Because I feel like if I talk to any person on the street, something's going to come up that's going to be wildly inappropriate. And is the purpose of the dyads to control the mind, to empty the mind? Because I mean, the mind's going to spin a whole lot of bullshit, and we'll just like, yeah, it's like a fountain of like primal things to say that are not appropriate.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I would say to that, you know, like the way, the beauty of these dyads is that, we're just reporting on the mind, so we don't have to say it, like the mind might come up with something like, this is bullshit, this is total insanity or whatever, or, it could have anything that it's coming up with, and we can just say, this is what's coming up in the mind, rather than sort of, identifying with it. We can just move sort of to this reporting position where it's like, okay, my mind is coming up with this. I know it's not socially appropriate, but this is what the mind is coming up with. And maybe there's an emotion behind that, and maybe that emotion starts to release some energy, and maybe the mind will start, unloading, or venting whatever's coming up, and that's okay. So this is the space where essentially anything goes with just because you're conveying to your partner what has been pushed into the unconscious mind. This is how we unburden. This clearing process is we're getting to communicate all the things that in life we weren't able to communicate, all the things we've had to stuff down. So everybody here knows that this is how it works. It's like nobody's going to take it personally. If that's what's coming up in your mind, awesome. We want you to be unburdened. We want you to be free of that thought and that whatever is in there. So that's the clearing. The clearing is whatever you call those patterns. Of when in our life we learn that certain things aren't appropriate, and energetically it becomes a resistance and a contraction, and we want to set that free.
Understand. Thank you for the reassurance.
Yeah, thanks. Azu.
Hi, everyone. So, I have two things to share. One of them is that dyads, and I do dyads every day. And it's when I'm watching everything. So there's the background, a live vibrating universe, and then things will come up in the body, and there will be preferences, and the mind will say things. And when I can just openly hold everything instead of like, I don't want to think, or I don't want to feel this emotion, or if I just allow everything to be here without rejecting anything or closing down, and I can think of an image of the birds, the little baby birds, and it's like opening its mouth and it's waiting for the mother to drop the food. Is like this posture, like there's such a buildup of energy that's rising from the belly area, and it's like the heart is burning, and the head is like, and it's shaking, and then I can just see the character wanting to control it because I think I'm gonna go crazy, and there's complete terror, and there's also excitement, and it happens every single dyad. And so but sometimes I can allow my mind to let go of the control, and then it hits a kind of roof, and then it kind of subsides. But most of the time it goes up and it just crashes right away. And I'm just wondering if you can speak on that, or if there's anybody else that's having this experience.
Thank you. Yeah, so what you're describing is an incredible openness. Charles Berner talks about what this openness is. It is almost like a death of the little self. This to truly be open, and there's a not knowing in that openness. You mentioned like a terror, yeah, of the mind. Yeah. So like to me, there's a. Would you say that like this is sort of the same cycle that happens in every dyad?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, I do dyads with Jana every day, and it consistently comes up, and I'm always faced with this level of resistance. And then so the next time I can maybe let go of 1 millimeter of resistance, because it always comes up and then it crashes, comes up and crashes. But the next time it comes up like 1 millimeter higher, and then it crashes, and the next day 1 more millimeter higher. It's like there's this chronic resistance to allowing the energy, because I think I'm gonna go crazy, or I'm gonna burn to death, or I'm gonna look, I don't know, like I'm gonna wake up the neighbors because I might scream, and all of those conditions want to be contained.
Yeah, I think so. In this space, this is where I think like there can be very subtle aspects of the mind that become present, become observable. So, what I'm hearing is, so you're just describing, being able to let go a little bit more. So there's the sense that something needs to happen. Something needs, like, there's going to be this maybe, tumult, incredible letting go of, explosion of energy, or something. The feeling I get is like there's something progressing, this dropping of resistance. And so there's a subtle belief that something needs to unfold in this process. So, so the mind, the mind is always, that sort of takes us out of what is actually happening here and now. There can be these subtle beliefs just in play that can sort of mediate in different ways. And my feeling is, if it seems, if you're like, it's good you're seeing a pattern that's in play. It's a pattern that's recurring through the dyads. And it's, it is these patterns. It's like the breath, it's expansion and contraction. It's, release, contraction. So, so this is the human vessel doing its thing. It's not a problem. It's doing exactly what it's meant to do. It's the only question is there an expectation or a wanting of something, other than what is happening, that expansion and contraction? Or can we just allow it to be exactly as it is?
Yeah, it seems like a muscle, the allowing muscle is being tested, because the allowing muscle is being tested in allowing sensations and emotions to flow. But when it comes to this specific whole package, that muscle is being tested.
Yeah, I think, there is a rewiring process happening. And yeah, like you're growing your spiritual muscles, or however you want to say it, but there is something developmental that happens in this process. And it can be, when that energy grows, um, sometimes, like, people have described it, it is almost like giving birth. It's almost like contractions of energy that can come. And, and quite often, the birth doesn't happen, but it's just this process of something happening. Like the energy has this agenda to work with us, to rewire us. And it's very mysterious. And I think the deeper we go into it, there's a real feeling that, something is meant to happen, something's meant to unfold from all of this. But at the same time, it's just being here with what is. So these are the two dimensions. We somehow, they coexist. Everything is perfect as it is, and yet there's this ongoing evolution, and the muscles building and all of that. Yeah. So if we can be okay with it, sometimes there can be an evaluation of it, the mind commentating on it, saying, oh, I could have let go more that time, or next time I'm going to let go even more. And, so those little evaluations, it's important to really bring those into consciousness.
Mm.
Mhm.
Thank you. I feel relieved to share it here with everyone in case it happens here.
Mhm. Yeah, awesome.
And the second thing that comes up is that I've done a bunch of.
I'm losing your voice. You just cut out.
Oh, I lost your face.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am retreats and I've done a bunch of EIs, and over there they always say, "Tell me who you are. Say the I. Say the I." What?
Sorry, I missed what you just said.
So there's a little bit. Okay, so I've done a bunch of I am retreats,
Mhm.
and I also done a bunch of EIs, and over there they insist on tell me who you are and reply from I feel this, I am this, I think this. So my mind is a little bit like wobbly with that. And so when I'm reporting I am this, I almost feel ashamed to be here and using the I. Is almost like here I mean I should be speaking English, over there I should be speaking French, and now I'm like being bilingual. So I just in expressing that to everyone, I feel relieved that I can just allow myself to use it freely.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
That's all I want to communicate.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to is just the freedom, the sense of ease, and when we use the word I, is it true? That's all that really matters. Is it where it's an investigation. So when I use I, sometimes it needs to come up. It's if it feels like it's my story coming up, if it feels like it's my pain, if it really feels like it, then that's what's authentically coming up. So sometimes we have to um, we have to feel that I, fully and explore it. And then, when that I comes up, we can really investigate, like, is it true? Is it my story? Is it my pain? Is it my whatever it is? And so there it doesn't really matter which approach. What matters is the knowing within yourself. When we use I, is it true? That's all that matters, that you know directly, who you are.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's a huge relief.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know in the Charles Berner world, there are different teachers have different approaches. And, some of them encourage the use of I, and some of them get you to question the use of I. And ultimately, the technique, if we just do the technique, and we're really investigating the I, it doesn't ultimately matter. It all ultimately works as long as we're just cultivating, continuous presence. The mind, eventually starts to drop off, and everything that's the false I starts to fall away, and whatever remains, at the end of that process, that's what we are and who we are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Almaz. Hello.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Hi. So it's not really a question that I have, it's more like an observation. So basically, when I'm doing my diet or throughout the day, I am able easily to make some distance with the chaos of the mind and the suffering and all the things that put me down. But when there's something positive that appear, and there's a sense of like calmness and like the sense of enjoying whatever I'm experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
I found it harder to, on that moment, to put also some distance on it, to remember that yes, I am that, but I was also the suffering. So there's a resistance or reluctance to to go away from that good sense or good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how to let go. I guess I don't know how to let go of the good feeling also.
Mm.
Like to be able to stay in neutrality sense of accepting both sides.
Yeah, well, I would say, you know, like, yeah, so there's an assumption there that we should stay in neutrality, rather than experiencing the full range of human experience. So like I would say, like when that the evaluator, the evaluating mind has sort of given up its control, then there's just the experience that's arising. So there are experiences. Um, the mind will say that this is beautiful. This is a beautiful experience. This is a bad experience. But when we drop that evaluating mind, um, actually, I don't know if what's good or bad. I don't know, what sometimes seems to be the worst experience, like getting sick. Um, is that a good experience or a bad experience? Sometimes, I've had sickness experiences that required a lot of equanimity, and that equanimity brought me into the most blissful state. So is being sick good? Is it bad? When we drop that evaluating mind, there's just what is arising, and it's and so that, um, but it's not a neutrality. I would say it's there might be a full range of feelings and all possibilities within that as well. Um, so it's just an allowing of of whatever is arising. Just a direct experience, a complete experience of whatever is arising. You know, how does that land for you, or what?
Mm. Like I understand, but it's not like clear in the sense like there's a resistance definitely like on what you just shared, or I don't know, there's a little resistance because I can't even describe it, like I can't even
Mhm.
explain it, but
What's coming up for me is like when we do this work, to find out who we are. Um, there is a sort of, it's almost like the neti process. I'm not this, I'm not that. Um, so what, there's this sort of stripping away, and what remains is who we are. But we can also start to explore. So after we find out who we are, then, like Charles Berner said, like we can use the what we are imperative to come back into experience, to come back into life. So if we start working with tell me what you are, this offers sort of a gateway to come back in. So, so at the beginning, it's like, I'm not this, I'm not that, and the mind will eventually fail, and we have this direct experience of who we are. But then it becomes, I am not too, as we come back to it, as if we explore what I am, if what is arising is an experience, whatever it is, it could be the breath, and we can have a direct experience. I am the breath, or a direct experience of, eating our food, a direct experience of having a conversation, where the mind is dropped off. So maybe exploring, the tell me what you are, can start to take you into, back into this is where the juice of life is, it's in what you are, like the what, like this is, the illusion, we wake up from the illusion, but then we realize, we're not separate. If we're separate from it, then there's still a duality. So who is liberating from the suffering, from the identification with the character, but then we go back into the character, back into the manifestation, and have direct experiences of everything that is arising. So so maybe exploring, the what imperative, will start to take you in that direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, that's something I actually, it's a lead into one of the things I wanted to mention. Uh, the different samadhis, or the different, um, you know, possibilities for awakening experiences are, um, they're talked about in different ways, but for me, there are two main samadhis. There's the nirvikalpa, which, when we're doing this process, like, whether you call it kensho or awakening, it's, just directly experiencing that which we are, that which remains when the mind and body have dropped off. So if that kensho, that awakening, um, is sort of a full awakening, like the ground of being wakes up to itself, then that carries through waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. So to me, that, it's the most important part of what we're doing here, is to recognize that eternal part of us, or that which is beyond name and form. That is, when we know ourselves to be that, um, that's liberation. That's the one that actually never needed to be liberated. It just is. Um, but then the human experience, to be in this human experience, the peak human experience is this, what, the Savakalpa Samadhi, um, the experience of union with, whatever is arising in the moment. And so all of these, direct experiences that we talk about, um, all these possibilities are really that, Savakalpa Samadhi. And this is where the rewiring is happening. This is where the developmental part of the path is happening. It's all, for the self structure, for the evolution of the self structure, to have a vessel that is, allowing the, the source to shine through. Um, there's less, distortion. There's less, um, you know, obscuring of our true nature. And that development process is, Charles Berner said it's the Enlightenment project is usually at least a 21-year project. Developing the chakras and the inner lotus and rewiring and all of that. And so this is, the paradox. We're already liberated, the awareness needs no development, and the human part is going through this transformation. So always being Buddha, always becoming Buddha. Yana. Hi, Yana.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Hi, Dan, and hi, everybody. Just wanted to share and I guess ask a question too. Really struggling today and just lately, especially just both on a personal level and a collective level, just really struggling. And when you talk about being like what you just said about union with all that is arising and being being in all of it, and allowing everything to be as it is. That's the part I'm having a hard time with. Just all the sorry, all the suffering and all the negativity and all the just the pain. I don't know, accepting it and allowing it, and it's very hard for me to accept what's going on right now, just collectively, globally, and personally too. And just trying to accept and be and make it okay seems fake. That doesn't seem real, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, I think there's a distinction, like, the accepting what is doesn't mean affirming, or giving a thumbs up to what is. It's not saying, like there are, natural impulses within the self structure. If we see somebody drowning, we want to help them. If we, if I see somebody drowning, I don't just say I'm going to accept what is. It's just all good. And the same in the world. It's there's a natural impulse when we see that it is, especially the more awake we are, the more we see it is all us, suffering. It's all, so there's a natural compassion. So when we see the brutality, the madness of the mind out there, it doesn't, it's not affirming it, saying that this is okay. It's actually just seeing what is, just purely acknowledging what is. Like the world is mad, it just, that's the way it is. But it's not evaluating it, in any way, saying this is okay or not okay. The okay or not okay is still within the mind. It's just coming to this place where, okay, this is what's happening. This is the human condition at this moment on the planet. And then, the energies are going to go where they're going to go. Our individual karma is going to play out how it's going to play out. It doesn't, so there may be actions in the world. There may be, a navigating of whatever's unfolding. That's okay. We don't have to be, you know, like this is the paradox. I think the more we see what's happening, you know, it's like in you know, the Bhagavad Gita, you know, there was a beautiful teaching where, you know, this is what Arjuna was struggling with. He was like, you know, the world is messed up. You know, it's like somehow I'm in this situation where I have to, you know, I have to fight against my relatives, and you know, if I fight, it doesn't feel right, but if I just surrender, it doesn't feel right. I'm going to get slaughtered. So, you know, what is the solution in all of this? And in that teaching, it was, you know, to like Krishna was like, you know, you let me go in your place. You know, you let consciousness, let it all, you know, unfold. So it's not about avoiding, but and it's not about identifying. There's another level where we just allow everything, the karma to unfold, but somehow we've this sense of I has become disentangled from it. So we let Krishna go in our place, you know.
Yeah, that's it. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Well, why don't we take a little 5-minute break, and we'll do a little short dyad then to wrap up this period in this session. So yeah, we'll see you back in 5 minutes.